A wild bird tests positive for the bird flu in Rochelle, according to the Ogle County Health Department. Just this week, someone was hospitalized for the virus in Louisiana. WIFR reporter Alyssa Kelly talks with the Illinois Farm Bureau about guidelines put in place to prevent the spread of the virus.
The bird flu is a viral illness that spreads among birds, but a subtype of bird flu is spreading worldwide in wild birds and causing outbreaks in U.S. poultry and dairy cows. The virus was first reported in March of 2024. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention states people rarely get the bird flu, but when they do, it is through direct, unprotected contact. The Ogle County Health Department reminds residents to not harvest or handle wild birds that are sick or found dead. The Illinois Farm Bureau also adds safeguards have been put into place to protect poultry and other wild species.
As we're starting to see other species engage in have some positive cases, some other areas of increased biosecurity efforts as well. So for poultry and poultry producers, there's been a lot of focus on improving biosecurity measures, and that has gone kind of all across the board with other livestock producers as well.
The CDC is monitoring this situation carefully and reminds people the current public health risk is low for the bird flu.
Thank you, Alyssa. The Illinois Department of Natural Resources is also monitoring the spread of the virus and encourages members of the public to report concentrations of 5 or more dead birds.